Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an advanced Dungeons and Dragons advice video on supplies. This one is supplies part 2. I did a video a while back titled Supplies. In that video, I talked about players who don't bother buying food or don't get enough of it. I touched on other consumables like arrows, oil, torches, and water. These considerations are very, very important for any player character. I realize that there are a lot of supplies which most players don't bother with. This is that video. Before I get into it though, if you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you would hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on social media, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all 7 of my books there. I like to think I write good stories that make you think. Hope you get them. Hope you like them. And by the way, I hit 300 subscribers last week. Kudos. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it, guys. I'm up to like 302 now, and I am so happy. There are places where you can go and spend money, and they'll give you thousands and thousands of subscribers. I do not do that. First off, I'm broke. I can't afford it. 2, I would rather have people subscribe who enjoy my content. You know, everybody who's subscribing to my channel likes my content, or at least is interested in it. So that to me, that was a huge boon, and I appreciate it. 300 subscribers. All right, on with the video. Oil. I went down the list here in the player's handbook, and I just started listing stuff. So in no particular order. Here we go. Oil. Magical weapons and armor do not rust. Non-magical metal objects do rust. Period. In my games, 1 flask of oil will last a character with metal armor and weapons 1 week. Oil is also useful to start fires as Molotov cocktails. If you are in the wilderness and you have oil and the wood is not exactly completely dry, or you're having a hard time getting started, you can soak some of the logs, some of the pieces of wood, the fuel, in oil and put it within, underneath and within the fire pile, I guess, for lack of a better word. And that way, when your kindling touches, that oil goes up and it'll burn, and it helps the fire go. I've seen people in real life do that with motor oil. So, clothing. People rarely buy clothes. I have lost count of the number of players who went into battle wearing armor but no clothing underneath it. That shit chafes, people. That's all I'm saying. Clothing, dress for the weather. Characters in the Arctic with armor and no cloak or heavy furs are going to die. That's just, they're going to freeze to death. And they're not going to be able to fight well either. Hot sand sucks if you have no footwear, and rain-soaked characters with no cloaks are miserable. I give minuses for people who don't do that. That's just me, though. But there are a lot of DMs who don't, who just ignore that. They don't care. I prefer a little more realism. Horses. Walking everywhere sucks. And now I got to put a caveat to that. Most players in my games don't bother with horses. The reason being, I'm on a battlefield, my mindset is expediency, efficiency, effectiveness. If you have the enemy on horseback, they are much more effective. First rule is to kill the horses. I have lost count on the number of players in my game who have complained, "What's the point of buying horses? You just kill them off." Well, if wild animals are attacking the group, the horses are probably an easier target. At camp at night, the horses are probably an easier target than the camp itself. As I said, on a battlefield, kill the horses. The knights on foot are easy pickings. If you're being chased, you're on horseback and the enemy's on horseback and they're chasing you across land, overland type thing, shoot their horses with arrows. They're on foot, they can't chase you anymore. I mean, if you can hit them, great, but shooting the horses is just good because you can outrun them. A courier who's delivering a message that you don't want delivered, shoot his horse. He's easy pickings after that. It sounds bad, but it's true. And on top of that, after the battle, you've got plenty of fresh meat. It's not nice, but when your life is at stake, being nice gets you killed. And I play D&D as try to make it as realistic as possible. Here we go. Backpacks, pouches, bags, quivers, boxes, chests, and saddlebags. Containers are necessary to carry things like arrows, provisions, and other necessities. Again, I have lost count of the number of players whose characters buy everything they need but have no way to carry it all. It won't all fit in your pockets, people. You got to have at least a backpack, something. Otherwise, you tie it all together with your rope and it's hanging off your shoulder or whatever. Which actually theoretically can be good because when combat breaks out, you just drop it and draw your weapon. But still, it's better to have a backpack or something. And if you have horses, saddlebags are wonderful because you ain't got to carry everything. Just saying. Not everything fits in your pockets. Candles, lanterns, and torches. Light is a good thing, especially underground. Infravision is nice, but humans don't have it. So unless you have a way to give yourself infravision, or if you're, if you have magical spells that give you light, that's cool. But usually torches and lanterns and like that, candles are quite nice. Check out my video, my AD&D hack, the flashlights. Yeah, check that out. Rope. Helpful for climbing, belaying, and in all manner of utilitarian uses. People say, well, I'm going to tie this to that. Using what? Well, I have rope. Really? Show me. Damn, I forgot to buy it. That kind of thing. Rope is always useful. It has 1,000 uses, and anybody who doesn't get rope is an idiot. That's all I'm saying. Skin for water or wine. Water is a necessity. Being able to carry said water is also a necessity. Wine is nice, and the skin can be filled with water after the wine is finished. It's the same, it's the same container. It's just one's filled with wine, one's filled with water. If you drink all the wine, you now have a second water skin. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people finish the wine and throw it away or disregard it. I was playing in a game where a guy had 4 flasks of wine because he wanted to stay drunk the entire time during the trip. And they ran afoul of something. I don't recall what it was, but they ended up having to spend a lot more time in the wilderness. And this guy says, he kept complaining, I only have one water skin. I only have one water skin. Well, didn't you drink all your wine? Yeah, but I only have one water skin. It's the same container, dipshit. No, people don't understand that. I mean, in a real world situation, he could have seen, gee, I've got these extra containers. We can fill them up with water at the next river. But it's just one of those things. Thieves' picks and tools. A thief without these will find it exceedingly difficult to defeat anything but the most basic traps or locks. In my world, a thief without thieves' picks and tools incurs huge penalties on their pick locks and find and remove trap skills. Find and remove traps. Fart. Their fart skill, yeah. The exact penalty depends on the complexity of the trap or lock, and I try to make an informed judgment call on that. But without thieves' picks and tools, thieves find a very difficult time of it. That's all I'm saying. Spikes, not a necessity, but can be exceedingly useful in a variety of situations. You have a hammer and some spikes. You're being chased by the bad guy. Slam the door behind you. Drive a spike in there to into the floor. Keep that door shut while you make your getaway. You have to climb. You have to move from point A to point B, and you have to secure. It's across a chasm, and you have to, you can lasso something over there that's heavy, and that's cool. Or something that won't budge, and you've got that in anchor. But you need to, over here, you need to anchor it to something, drive a spike, and anchor it on there. Yeah, spikes are exceedingly useful. They're not a necessity, but they are definitely useful. A tinderbox. Oh my God. Flint and steel used on tinder is how a fire is started. Spellcasters can use spells, but it's rather drastic. Matches do not exist in advanced Dungeons and Dragons. In later editions, they have tinder twigs and things like that. And if you have like a magnifying glass, you can use the sun's rays to start a fire. That's cool. But generally speaking, a tinderbox is the way to go. Flint and steel in that tinderbox is an essential. People go, well, we're going to start a fire. How are you going to do it? Yeah, you got to buy a tinderbox. Have it as a backup, if nothing else. I have seen players, because it's got flint and steel in there, and that stuff is fairly heavy, in a wooden box that's sturdy. Yeah, I know a player character who had lost his weapon, and the only thing he had on him at the time was a tinderbox, and he used that as a weapon and bashed the bad guy in the head. Was able to get that guy's weapon and continue the fight. So yeah, it's not what you got, it's how you use it, people. Tinderbox, very, very important. Alcoholic beverages. Wine is not an antiseptic. It is not, no alcoholic beverage listed in the player's handbook can be used as an antiseptic. However, it can be used to treat minor ailments like strep throat, colds, and some blood disorders. Ales and beers do not contain enough alcohol to serve as an antiseptic either. In my world, this is the way I play it. In my world, wine-soaked bandages can help to prevent infection, but they're useless if the infection already exists. So if you take a hit and you don't bind your wounds or do anything like that, you have a chance of infection setting in. And if that infection sets in, yeah, you're going to need magical healing because penicillin don't exist. There are no antibiotics. If you want to sterilize something, yeah, ales and beers are pretty good for that. Wine is okay, but it's not great. But if you have an infection, you're going to need magical healing. Wine-soaked bandages in my world can, and it works the same with beer and ale and like that, but they can prevent an infection if you don't already have one. But if you do have one, yeah, you need magical healing. Alcoholic beverages do function as painkillers. You get a guy drunk enough, he passes out, you can perform surgery and he won't know. So, religious items. Useful for clerics. Some clerical spells require holy symbols as components. Keep that in mind. If you're a cleric, you really want to invest in some religious paraphernalia. It's always useful for you. The other characters, it's not so important. It depends on your backstory and if you are a religious character, but for clerics, it's a necessity. Tack and harness. If you want to be an effective combatant from horseback, saddles and bridles help. In a pinch, a horse can be ridden bareback, but it ain't easy. Requires a lot of leg strength, and it's better with a saddle. That's all I'm saying. Transport. Traveling from point A to point B sometimes requires a form of transport, be it a horse or whatever. Buying passage on a ship or in a caravan is a lot cheaper than purchasing a ship or a wagon or a horse. I generally charge 2 silver pieces per character per day, and this covers 1 basic meal per day. Sometimes fighters can hire on as guards, and other player characters can hire on to caravans in various capacities. Clerics are always useful. If your character can cook, that's always useful in any caravan. On board ship as well. Just saying. Characters who know sailing or ocean vessels can hire on as sailors. Hiring on nets you a paycheck as well as travel from here to there. And you don't have to pay for passage if you work there. Word of the wise. Every play, I had a player in one of my games. They came to a ferry, and it was one of those ferries where there was a rope across the river, and the guy's going to pull the boat back and forth. And that was cool. But the player character didn't have any money. And he said, well, what I'll do is I'll pull the boat to the other side. That way you won't need to work, and I'll earn my way. And the ferryman, who had a buttload of cargo to load, said, sure, let me load this cargo first. So, it works out. Every player character, as soon as possible in game time, needs to learn basic first aid. Clerics, monks, barbarians, rangers, and druids all know basic first aid as part of their training in my world. They should teach this to the other player characters as soon as possible. Basic first aid includes tourniquets, binding wounds, cauterizing wounds, and how to treat wounds and illnesses. Rations include smoked or salted meat, which can be used for soup or stews, which are great in the cold. One of the most important and often overlooked concepts in the game is haggling. I did an entire video on that. Go check it out. Many players hear a price and they pay it without thinking. When you're buying supplies, always haggle. As a dungeon master, I have robbed player characters of their hard-earned coins by upping the prices. The sad part is that many players either don't pay attention to the cost, they don't subtract spent coins, or they feel that because the dungeon master is the shopkeeper quoted a price, then that was it. Being frugal in my game is just being smart. If you can get away with paying 5 gold instead of 8, do it. Not subtracting spent coins is cheating, just like fudging die rolls or changing stats on your character. It's cheating. If you spend money, you have to subtract it. Players who don't think the dungeon master will try to screw them over are just stupid and deserve to be fleeced. In my world, when a player character buys supplies at the beginning, when they first create their character and they're buying stuff, they pay book price. After that, I haggle. So when you're buying supplies during the game, try to haggle. Because if you can get a cheaper price, do it. When a player character buys supplies, all this needs to be taken into consideration. In my game, I haggle every single chance, and my players love it because it gives them the opportunity to feel like they're in control of the situation. If they can haggle a better price and screw me out of some money, amen. If you're in my game and you've been playing a while and you go to the shop, the local shop, and he says, the shopkeeper says, well, it's going to cost you 14 gold. And you pay that 14 gold, yeah, you deserve it. So just keep in mind, supplies are important, very important, but you also have to keep in mind the dungeon master's job is to screw you over. I hope this helps, and I hope this finds everybody well. Again, this is not how you have to do it. This is the way I do it, and it works well. As a dungeon master, I enjoy the hell out of all this. I'm a records person. I like keeping perfect records. Hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all. Vanguard 1, Devo Polan, a scientific representative from a pacifist race called the Gandhiri, has come to Earth to learn the one thing that humans do better than anyone else in the galaxy: to fight. In the sequel, Task Force Terminus, Earth is at war with an alien race called the Amdola. Devo Polan's new commission in the Terran fleet exposes him to bigotry and treachery, and he comes to realize that sometimes political and military maneuvering are one and the same.